Hello, awesome morticians, and welcome back for the third video in the series where we're exploring the new Mautic Community Portal. In this video, I'm going to explain processes. What are they, why we would use them, how you use them, and why they're important in the Mautic community. So let's go ahead and click on processes in the top main menu. And you will notice that there's some text at the top here, just like there was in assemblies, which explains to you what a participatory process is. Basically, it's a sequence where you go through making a proposal, the proposals are reviewed, they're voted on or prioritized, and then we make a decision on what ones we want to go forwards. So that could be anything from voting on who's going to be in the community council, to deciding new features in Mautic, to figuring out what kind of swag we're going to have for the next Mauticon and having people design some proposals, and we then ask the community to vote and then decide which ones we go forward with. So you can see there's lots of different ways that we might use a process, a participatory process within the community. At the moment, we have two processes that are live, and I'm going to talk you through the council elections one to start with, because that's probably the easiest for people to understand. So to get to the processes, we click here. You could also click on this banner that we have at the top, which will take you straight into the elections, but let's click here. So some things to mention, we have a hashtag here like we have in the assembly. So all of them, we tried to have a unique hashtag that relates to that specific thing. It tells you about participatory processes. Again, you can cancel that if you don't want that to show every time. And then this tells you specifically what this process is about, why it is important. This tells you about the community council. What is the council? Why is this election happening? What is the council's role within our community? Like everything else, you can stop following or follow here using this button. It also tells you that this actually belongs to a process group called governance. So we might have the elections running, but there might also be some other processes that are running which also relate to governance. So this allows us to group active processes together. So that's why it says this process belongs to governance. It tells you if there are assemblies that are related to this. Now, obviously the council, because we're voting for council members, and the general assembly, because that's actually where we'll be bringing in those council members. We'll be looking at the outcome of this, and we'll be voting those people in to say, yes, this was a voting process that happened, and we're actually officially having those people start on these days and so forth. So what happens with a process, which is different to an assembly, is there are actually phases. So you'll see at the top here, it says we're in phase 1 of 3. And these phases are created when we create the process, and they can be specified by the process team, the team that are organizing. In this case, we've got 3 phases. So here we've got nominations open until the end of October. And this is a phase where you can step up and say, I want to stand as a member for the council. You can propose yourself to actually be considered for nomination, for voting for a council member position. This phase, which will start on the 28th of October and go through to the 8th of November, is where all of the nominations are now submitted. We don't allow any more nominations, and the community have the option to vote for who they want to be standing on the council. So every member of the General Assembly will have 7 votes to vote for people in the nominations. And that's because there's 7 seats on the council. So if we had 15 people stepping forwards and you have 7 votes, obviously you can see that we will figure out in the end that some people will be more highly ranked than others. And then on the 8th, we will then make the announcement and tell people what the outcome is of this nomination and election process. In the voting phase, the listings will be shown randomly, and then when we get to the announcements, they will be shown by the highest number of votes. So what happens basically in this phase? Nominations are open. So I could submit a nomination If I wanted to nominate me, I would fill in this draft. I've already written some text in just fictionally so that I can show you how it works. You start off with create your proposal, and you have help text here which tells you what you need to do. Once you've edited and created some information and written your proposal, it then actually compares your proposal to others. It's not so relevant when you're looking at council members, but if you think about proposing product features, it would compare your proposal against others that might be similar and give you the option to actually tweak yours and make it clear how yours differs to others. That could be relevant here as well. If other people have written proposals, you can then compare them. So I would go through this and say, okay, I'm happy with this, tick the Mautic governance hashtag. You can also attach an attachment if you want to. I click preview and it tells me you're creating a proposal. It's not yet been submitted. It's saved as a draft. You have to publish it for it to actually appear. This is the help text telling you what you need to actually do next. So this is what will actually appear when I publish this. And it will give people the option to read that and decide if I'm the person that they actually want to vote for. So when I hit publish, that will then be available for everybody to read. If I want to tweak something, I click modify proposal, I can go back and tweak, and then I go back to the preview stage and then I publish. So then what will happen is you'll be able to see the nominations when we go through to the next phase. Here, you'll be able to actually vote for the people. So every member will have 7 votes. They'll be able to vote for 7 nominations. And you can also add questions and you can endorse, which is like, you can say, yeah, I like this proposal. So supporting is actually voting, but endorsing is just saying, I like this proposal. It's like a like on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Whereas supporting is actually you using your vote to cast a vote for that individual. So that's the basics really of how processes work within this community portal. The other process that we have is proposing new features. And the way that we're looking at this actually working is that you have the option when we've been discussing on the forums a new feature and the community has got to a point where it's like, yeah, I really like this feature and I think it would be really good for Mautic. And developers are saying, yeah, it sounds really cool. It's something we could work on. At that point, we then bring it here and say, right, this is actually a feature that we really think is something that would be good to go into Mautic. We've got the support of the marketers. We've got developers who are willing to work on it. We actually need to have the core team sign off on it and say, yeah, that sounds like a really good feature that would be great to bring into Mautic. Let's get going on it. Let's get developing. This is always open, so there's no kind of phases like we just had with the nominations. But what you can do is propose new features. And if we look here, we'll see one which I've just added because it's somebody who has already made a proposal through this kind of route, but we didn't have the portal available at that point. So you can see what it will look like when there is a proposal here. So it asks you to answer certain questions. Has it already been discussed on the forums? Yes, because it has to be discussed on the forums first. Does it relate to a problem? What is the problem? What kind of solution do you think we should offer? Are there any alternatives? Is there any more context to this? Does this impact private data? Because obviously we have to think more carefully about it if it does. Are you able to fund this, or are people available to actually do this development and send it over to the community? Because that's obviously very important as well. And then this is showing you that this has been endorsed by myself and also by the product team. And you can see some images here. We can open this and have a look at the feature as it was discussed. It warns us that we're opening this in a new website that's not the same website, so it's just a nice option. And we can go through and read that information. And we can look at these images that explain a bit more about the proposal. And basically, you can see here what I was saying about endorsing and supporting. So I can endorse this. So I've endorsed already as me and the product team. But I could also endorse it as another team if I wanted to. And that's like a like. That's a like. And a support is a vote. So with this kind of thing, we would want to be seeing supports, so votes, from the core team. And we will probably set some requirements around this to say that we need X numbers of the core team to actually give a positive status for it to be considered. And then you can add comments here. So you can actually leave comments on the proposal to say whether you think this would be helpful, if there's anything that you think has been missed or things that need to be considered, and so on and so forth. And then the core team will actually review these and decide whether they're going to take it into consideration for a future release. And then they would say, yes, we accept this, and we want you to aim to put this into the 6.3 release, for example, or the 5.4 release or whatever. So they would then give direction to the people who are proposing this as to which release they need to actually aim to get this feature into Mautic. So those are the two key processes that we're using at the moment. You'll notice in this one, we've also got the option for debates. Now, any of the assemblies or processes can have debates. And this is where if you have a question and you want the community to be able to give you feedback or discussions. So in this one, we were working on the C-key editor, and a question came up about when you're using the Grapes.js builder, within the actual what you see is what you get editor, what should you be able to change in that? Because you can change a lot of the stuff in the Grapes.js builder itself. How much do you actually want to be able to change within the Twig editor? So this is an opportunity for us to have a discussion about something and have a debate. It could be a time-limited debate, or we could just close it when we get to a point where we've actually made a decision. And then we could turn that into a proposal. So we could then say, if this was talking about like a bigger idea someone has for Mautic, we could then from that discussion create a proposal. So hopefully that makes sense as to what the processes are, how they work. We are just exploring very small areas right now, and there are lots of other ways we can use these features for the benefit of Mautic, but we're just starting in two areas where we think that it would be really beneficial. So as always, if you have any questions, if there's anything that you are not clear about with the processes section of the community portal, please let me know and give me a shout, and I'm happy to walk through it with you.